Hello everyone, welcome back to Carnivorous Plants Hub. Summer is finally right around the corner, and before I put my Venus Flytraps and Sarracenia back out into full sun, there are 5 important things I always do to get them ready for the growing season. You definitely don't have to do all of these things, but in my experience, they can make a huge difference in keeping your Venus Flytraps and Sarracenia healthy, vigorous, and looking their best all season long. For many of you, the growing season has already started, but here in my area, it's only now consistently staying above 40 degrees at night, so my plants are still hitting their growing stride. Today, I'll walk you through exactly how I prep my Flytraps and SARs for explosive spring growth, healthier traps, and strong pitchers all season long. Let's jump right into it. Starting with number 1, before I put all my carnivorous plants back out into the sun, I always make sure I give them a good dose of pest protection. Over the years, I've had run-ins with spider mites, aphids, and thrips, and trust me, once you get a bad spider mite outbreak, you do not want to deal with that again. I've found that being proactive instead of reactive is by far the best approach when it comes to pests. Instead of waiting until I actually see bugs, I spray preventatively to help stop infestations before they even start. And I have to give a ton of credit to Sarracenia Northwest here, because this natural, pet-safe spray method has worked incredibly well for me. Before this, I was using stronger miticides only after I noticed pests. But since switching to this preventative mix, I haven't had any major spider mite outbreaks. And now I only occasionally see an aphid here and there that I can just pluck off by hand. I learned this method from Sarracenia Northwest. They put out some amazing content, and I've learned a lot from them. Head on over to their channel and subscribe if you get the chance. The recipe I'm showing you today makes 1 gallon of spray, which is usually enough for me to spray all my Venus Flytraps, Sarracenia, roses, and shrubs twice. If you only have a few Flytraps though, you can absolutely mix this in a gallon container and transfer it into a regular spray bottle. It'll last you a really long time. And as always, everything I mentioned in this video will be linked down in the description and pinned comment below. Now before we get started, I want to mention that I'm only showing you exactly what I personally use. I can't really speak for other brands because I haven't tested them myself. The first ingredient is insect killing soap from Safer brand. The second ingredient is pure neem oil from Plantonics. If your neem oil arrives solidified, don't worry. Just place the container in some warm water and it'll melt back down into liquid pretty quickly. And finally, I use essential oils from the Now brand. I personally alternate between rosemary and orange oil. Now, essential oils can be a little tricky because some companies heavily dilute them, which makes them far less effective. But this brand has worked really well for me. The essential oils actually serve 2 purposes. First, neem oil and insecticidal soap honestly smell pretty terrible. The essential oils completely overpower that smell and make the spray much more pleasant to use. But second, and more importantly, rosemary and orange both have natural pest-repelling properties. I also like alternating scents because pests can sometimes adapt to repeated exposure over time. That's it, just 3 simple ingredients. When you start mixing everything together, I highly recommend filling your container with water first. If you add the ingredients before the water, the soap tends to foam up a lot, which gets pretty annoying. Once your gallon is filled with water, add 1 tablespoon of each ingredient. Then put the lid on and shake everything vigorously. Since you're mixing oils and water, they naturally separate pretty quickly, so I also recommend shaking the sprayer occasionally while you're applying it. When spraying, coat the plants thoroughly until they're dripping. And if you're nervous about trying this on your plants for the first time, you can always test spray a single plant and monitor it for a few days before treating everything else. I also use this exact mix on my rose bushes and flowering shrubs, because aphids can get pretty bad around here, and this spray helps tremendously. A couple quick tips before moving on. Don't apply this in direct sunlight. Strong sun can reduce the effectiveness of some ingredients and may increase the chance of leaf damage. For best results, I like spraying right after sunset so the mixture has all night to settle onto the plants before the sun comes back up. And finally, you can store the leftover mix in a cool, dry place for future sprayings. Moving on to number 2, repotting. Before my plants go back out into the sun, I like to make sure all my Venus Flytraps are freshly repotted and divided if needed. In my opinion, early spring, before the growing season really takes off, is the best time to repot Venus Flytraps. You can repot them at almost any time of year, but doing it while they're still mostly dormant tends to stress them a lot less. Now, repotting every 1 to 2 years isn't absolutely required, but I personally notice a huge difference when I stay on top of it. Usually the plants take a small hit for a couple weeks after repotting, but once they recover, they almost always outperform the Flytraps that have been sitting in the same pot for years. The growth just tends to be much more vigorous. One thing I constantly notice after a couple years is a thick layer of moss, debris, and compacted material building up around the top of the plant. Over time, this slowly buries the rhizome deeper and deeper into the pot, and when that rhizome gets buried too deeply, the new growth has a much harder time reaching the surface. Some of my plants this spring were really matted up, and you could actually see the new leaves struggling to push through all that buildup. I've found that cleaning away that thick layer of moss and dividing overcrowded plants gives the new growth a much easier path to come up strong and healthy. For example, take a look at this bristle-tooth Venus flytrap I'm dividing right now. At first glance it doesn't look too crowded, but once this thing hits its stride during peak growing season, this planter is going to become completely packed. The larger divisions will start shading smaller plants, new growth gets crowded out, and airflow becomes more restricted. Repotting and dividing it now is way easier than waiting until mid-season when everything is exploding with growth. And as you can see here, this single planter actually separated into 7 individual plants. That's a ton of rhizome mass all fighting for space in one pot. Before we jump into number 3, if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to pour some water on that like button and subscribe to help the channel grow. And if you're planning on repotting your own Venus flytraps or Sarracenia this spring, I do have repotting kits available over at Carnivorous Plants Hub that take a lot of the guesswork out of the process. I've spent countless hours dialing in what I feel is the perfect blend of peat moss, perlite, and crushed glass to create a mix that holds moisture really well while still allowing excellent drainage. It's the exact same substrate mix I personally use for all of my Venus flytraps and Sarracenia. Each kit comes with a planter and enough substrate to completely fill it with a little leftover. And if you want to see exactly how I make the soil mix, I also have a full video walkthrough on the website where I break down the entire process step by step. You can also check out hundreds of reviews from other growers who have been really happy with the kits. I'm also getting very close to offering live plants on the website, so definitely keep an eye out for that as well. There's a link down in the description and pinned comment. Let's get into number 3. Moving on to the next thing I like to do before the growing season really gets going, applying a fungicide. Fungicides can help protect Venus flytraps from issues like crown rot and root rot, which are usually caused by overly wet conditions, poor airflow, or cooler temperatures combined with high humidity. Now, there are also a lot of growers who believe fungicides can help improve the longevity and vigor of Venus flytrap growth. I can't scientifically prove that myself, but I have noticed some benefits when using them consistently. One of the biggest reasons I personally use fungicide is actually for flower stalk propagation. When my flytraps send up flower stalks, I usually cut them and plant them for propagation. And in my experience, the longer those flower stalks stay healthy and alive, the better chance they have of striking and producing new plants. I've noticed fungicides seem to help extend the lifespan of both leaves and flower stalks, which is why they become part of my spring prep routine. The fungicide I personally use is Scott's Disease X. To make the mix, I add 1 tablespoon into a gallon of water and shake it up really well. It can take a bit of effort to fully dissolve everything into the water, so don't worry if it takes a lot of mixing. Once it's ready, I top water all my Venus flytraps with the solution. And just like with the pest spray, if you're nervous about trying this for the first time, you can always test it on a single plant first and wait a few days to make sure there are no negative effects. After top watering, I let all the excess water fully drain out of the pot before placing the plants back into their trays. I personally dump the runoff because I don't really want the plants sitting in fungicide-treated water long term. Most growers who use fungicides seem to apply them up to 3 times throughout the growing season, and monthly applications are probably the most common schedule I see people following. Another thing I always make sure to do before moving my plants back out into full sun is trimming away all the dead growth. Now honestly, this is something you can, and probably should, be doing throughout dormancy anyway. But I know a lot of growers prefer waiting until early spring and cleaning everything up all at once. Over winter, dead leaves and old pitchers can really pile up around the plant, and if you leave too much of that material sitting there, it can become a breeding ground for mold and mildew. In some cases, that excess moisture and buildup can even increase the risk of crown rot. Keeping everything cleaned up and trimmed back helps improve airflow around the plant, and keeps the growth point much healthier going into the season. It also makes a huge difference for the new growth. A lot of times, fresh traps and pitchers are trying to push up through a thick mat of old leaves, moss, and debris. By clearing all that away, you're allowing the new growth to get much better exposure to sunlight and airflow right from the start. The best time to do this is usually while repotting, because you already have the plant out and can really clean everything up properly. But even if you decide not to repot this year, I still think it's a really good idea to remove all that old material before the growing season begins. Another thing I like to do in early spring is trim off the flower stalks from my Venus flytraps. As your flytraps start waking up from dormancy, you'll notice many of them beginning to send up flower stalks. And honestly, there's a lot of bad information and myths floating around about Venus flytrap flowers, so I want to clear some of that up today. One of the biggest myths I constantly hear is that letting your Venus flytrap flower is basically a death sentence for the plant. That's simply not true. Almost all mature Venus flytraps naturally flower in spring, and if your plant is healthy and established, allowing it to flower is completely normal and usually won't kill it. Now, with that being said, I do strongly believe flowering has a noticeable impact on the plant's growth and overall vigor for the season. Last year, I allowed a huge number of my flytraps to flower because I wanted to collect seeds. And honestly, I regretted it pretty quickly. Throughout June and even most of July, many of my plants stayed noticeably stunted because they were spending so much energy producing flowers and seeds instead of traps. The reduction in growth was extremely obvious. The plants stayed smaller, trap production slowed down, and overall they just weren't nearly as vigorous as usual. When a Venus flytrap flowers, a massive amount of energy gets diverted into reproduction. By simply cutting the flower stalk early, you can redirect that energy back into producing larger traps and stronger growth. Now, here are a couple really interesting facts about Venus flytrap flowers. If you allow your flytrap to flower and produce seeds, those seeds are not clones of the original plant. So technically, seedlings produced from open pollination should not carry the same cultivar name as the parent plant. If you intentionally cross two specific plants and control the pollination, then you can label the seedlings as a cross between those two parents. But if your plants are just flowering naturally outdoors, there's really no way to know exactly what pollinated what. Venus flytraps do not self-pollinate, so they require a separate flower from a separate plant for pollination and seed production. Now here's where things get really cool. If you cut the flower stalk while it's still young, before it gets too large, you can actually propagate that flower stalk into entirely new plants. And unlike seeds, those propagated plants are true clones of the mother plant, meaning they can carry the exact same cultivar name. I've been cutting and propagating all my flower stalks this spring, and I'm planning to release a full detailed propagation video very soon where I show my entire process and just how successful these stalks ended up being. So if you want to see that video when it drops, definitely make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Right now, all of those flower stalks are sitting under grow lights just waiting to strike. At the end of the day, flowering probably isn't going to kill a healthy Venus flytrap. But if your plant is already weak, stressed, or struggling, allowing it to flower can absolutely make things worse. And in those cases, I strongly recommend cutting the stalk off. If your plant is healthy though, the decision is really up to you. But personally, if your goal is massive traps and vigorous growth throughout the season, I recommend cutting the flower stalk before it gets much larger than about 2 to 3 inches tall. I know some of the topics we covered today can be a little controversial in the Venus flytrap community, so if you have any questions, opinions, or techniques that work well for you, definitely drop a comment below. I'd really love to hear what works in your growing conditions, and if you want to see my full detailed Venus flytrap repotting tutorial, click the video that's popping up on your screen right now. In that video, I walk through the entire process step by step. Thank you all so much for watching, and I really appreciate you spending part of your day here with me at Carnivorous Plants Hub. I hope to catch you in the next video.